Tuning out of starlight, the innocent lifetime flickers and flashes under a canvas. No, nobody seems worth it, while the feeling's sophisticated. The view is so restrained. The past is nearing closer and closer, I fear. So let's just cut the bullshit and tell me who's independent. Thumbs twiddling and your life's escaping your mind. Keep in mind, well, the air ain't as free as it used to be, but that's quite alright when you're still 18, it seems to be. And I'll tell you who's overrated. What's a beautiful person with some hideous dreams? Well, the lining isn't silver. We're verging on the side of the road that'll take us home. Us getting weighed. Read about your life in your local papers. Realize the end of us getting near. You're just a droplet of paint trickled off your canvas. Delirious illusion flowing backwards through the river of color, while we analyze to try to see it clearer. Secretly appealing to a lonely prisoner. Now what's your vision? Initiate your shading, blend the universe together. In time it only gets a little easier. Suddenly piece yourself back together now. What's your vision?
What up, Vigilantes? I'm here with the one and only Ldixon. Ldixon has been part of the Crypto Vigilante, Dollar Vigilante, and anarcho family since before I can remember. Since the whole ChatGPT AI thing started, we were all trying to figure things out. What's going on? And the next thing you know, we look over our shoulders and Leandro's like, oh yeah, I'm working on a bunch of projects in the AI space. I'm like, what? What do you mean? And so he's even, been working with us on developing projects for the Vigilante family. So yeah, I think Leandro's the AI Vigilante, to be completely honest. So I told you I was going to christen you. Yeah, you like that, right? You're the AI Vigilante. Yeah. So, we're going to talk about everything having to do with this from a libertarian perspective, because there's a lot of fear out there making you guys think that you shouldn't touch these technologies or that these technologies should be regulated. Leandro, let's get going. Should these technologies be regulated?
Yeah, look, as a voluntarist and an anarchist, I'm not a fan of regulation. The vast majority of the time, regulation is doing more harm than it's doing good. I mean, it just becomes a tool that the corporations use and exploit to still do harm, but to keep other people out of the industry, to raise the barrier to entry for competition to enter, right? So for me, regulation is just it's just not the approach to solve problems. In fact, like it really just ends up lining people's pockets and protecting the big corporations that still, again, continue to do harm. But yeah, just to zoom back out from that for just a second, and just to paint a picture of, so many people are worried about AI. Well, having a whole lot of fear about the whole situation. And don't get me wrong, I understand where a lot of the fear comes from. But just like, with most technologies, it's a tool. It's a tool that can be used for bad, for sure. And it's a tool that can be used for good. And, when the internet first, came into fruition, I think a lot of us saw the liberating potential that it would have on humanity, and that was really celebrated. But what we didn't see at the time was how that tech could be used to control us in a lot of ways. And I think we better understand that now. And I think we've had a similar thing with crypto. When Bitcoin first came out, it was the promise that crypto was going to be this liberating and prosperity giving tool for humanity. And it is, and it continues to be that. But I think a lot of us didn't realize the potential that it had to also be used to control us. And I think we have the opposite scenario going on with AI right now. I think a lot of people are fixated on, the danger that it could have to us as freedom-loving individuals and to humanity as a whole. And people aren't really looking at how this technology can be used to create a more free and abundant world, man. So I just want to help paint that picture for people. And yeah, man, the potential is endless. I know we're going to dive deep into the rabbit hole. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yes, in conversations with Ed Bugos, he said something very insightful. He said that AI, if it works, has to adhere to first principles, rules of the universe that cannot be otherwise, things that we study in natural law and Austrian economics, where apodictic principles like the law of non-contradiction and the law of self-reference, that things are and can't be otherwise within the world that we're in, the existence that we have. And so AI has to abide by that logic. So if you're someone, not that logic, by logic itself, if you're someone that trusts in reason and in logic, you will know that AI will be something that will have that constraint. And so there's really nothing that we should fear. But yeah, let's get into it. So I asked you to bring about some projects so we can talk about and dive into, and you were talking to me about Dolly. Give me a precursor as to Dolly. Where does Dolly come from and what is it? What are people using it for?
So yeah, Dolly is OpenAI's text to image generation machine learning model. So what that means is, you can type in text and tell it to generate something, and it will create that. And I can actually show you some examples, but just to take a step back and get some context with this too. Again, this is OpenAI's model. And, when Raph and I were talking before the show, before the interview, I was kind of explaining that, I'm exploring all of these technologies and really just trying to see what's possible out there and like getting my hands dirty with all of it. But I highly prefer open source. Oh, all the way open source for the win, for sure. But just to take a look at Dolly, because last year before ChatGPT came out, this was one of the machine learning models that was really starting to create some buzz and that people were getting really excited about. So if you've never seen a text to image generation model, it's pretty mind blowing. So you can just type in things like let's see, a Bitcoin mural.
Can you
yeah,
share your screen, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty wild because, as I understand it, it's many different languages merging into giving you a new form of arriving at conclusions by the emergence of all these language models into one.
Yeah.
And so it's
So it's like,
yeah, it's very beautiful.
Look at this. It just AI just created these. I mean, it's pretty mind blowing. It's really interesting because without getting too deep into the technological rabbit hole, they don't actually know how this technology works entirely. But what they're basically doing is they're taking large volumes, extremely large volumes of images and text, and basically processing it in these machine learning models. And it's basically creating principles and establishing connections that we don't necessarily understand, but it's figuring out how to basically associate numbers and patterns and principles. It has its own principles with what makes an image, sort of thing. And so it's just really mind blowing. So So yeah, Dolly was kind of one of the first AI platforms that was really just starting to generate some serious buzz, last year and the year before. And thankfully, we have an open source model, which I actually don't have running on this machine, so I can't really show you firsthand on this model. But Stable Diffusion came out, which was an open source alternative to Dolly. Was created by a company called Stability AI. And basically, toward right before ChatGPT came out, there was a lot of people starting to post images. I'm sure you've seen, if you're on social media, you saw somebody posting an image with like an AI avatar that was like them, but looking like a comic book character or some other animated character or something like that. And a lot of those were done through an app called Lensa. And actually, Lensa was powered by Stable Diffusion, which is the open source alternative. So the app that actually really brought the text to image generation to the forefront and made it start going mainstream was Stable Diffusion by Stability AI. And so they're now they've exceeded the quality of Dolly, and they're able to generate better images than Dolly, but open source, free and open source. Like you can
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, amazing. Wow. You do it locally too. On my other machine, I have like a local iteration of it, and you can just run it on your own machine, and you can generate images, and also you can build things with it because they have a commercial license, which is again why Lensa was able to just take Stable Diffusion, this open source software, give it a nice, clean, user-friendly interface, and allow people to build stuff with it. So, open source for the win, for sure.
Dude, that's amazing. Okay, so you can write things, it'll give you images. That's this type of tools. You also can transcribe and here, let's talk about the other tools that this allows you to have. You can also translate to other languages, right? I've heard of Whisper, for example, right? That allows you to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Whisper, that's another, OpenAI, they're kind of like, the top dog in this right now. There's this huge battle going on between OpenAI, kind of Microsoft is like one of OpenAI's biggest investors. After ChatGPT exploded, Microsoft invested like $10 billion into OpenAI and actually owns a large chunk of it. So, there's some lizards. There are definitely some lizards for sure. But yeah, OpenAI is competing against Google, and Google's just like struggling to keep up. And, there's just like this huge arms race going on between all of them. And then you have, again, Stability AI that are trying to build open source alternatives to everything, and a bunch of other open source players in the game. But Whisper is OpenAI's transcription model. So yeah, basically you can just pass audio into it, and it can transcribe that audio into text at over 90% accuracy. It's pretty stunning.
Awesome, man. So what other tools do you have to show us today?
So look, there's just so many out there. Look, I'm sure most people have heard of ChatGPT by this point. It's become the fastest growing software in human history, sort of thing. It went from it generated 100 million users, I believe, in a month and a half or something like that. So yeah, it squashed every social media platform, every other piece of software, like crypto, unfortunately, just in terms of adoption. It's huge. So I'm sure most people have seen ChatGPT. But yeah, just to quickly show you that, if you haven't seen it, let me just go ahead and So what ChatGPT is, come on. It's a large language model is what these are called. So these large language models, they basically take extremely large amounts of text, and similarly to how I was describing the text to image models, they're able to process these things and train these things on on tons and tons and tons of text. Like, you know, as much as they can scrape legally from the internet or illegally in some cases, they're training these models with, and these models are basically creating principles that help it, you know, figure out what's coming next, but to predict the next word. So, in essence, that's how these large language models started off. It's like you can almost imagine it like autocomplete, where it's just trying to predict the next word. But it goes way, way beyond that. So if anybody tells you that's all it is, still, no, there's definitely a lot more to it than that. But so yeah, with ChatGPT, like, you know, you can just ask it virtually anything, right? So I mean, you could ask it things like, tell me about crypto. Oh, that actually needs screen share. So you can say, tell me about cryptocurrency. And it'll like just write up something that's incredibly useful, that like really gives you a breakdown of the scenario. I know for a lot of people will critique ChatGPT as being woke. It's woke. It is for sure. Like, yeah, they definitely, you know, they really train this thing and try to tweak it and try to control it and not let it, you know, have free reign to say whatever it wants to say, sort of thing. So there's definitely a degree of wokeness to it for sure. And you know, basically these things, they're gonna be a result of what you put into it. So, you know, they're taking a lot of things from the internet, yeah, but they're kind of curating what they're feeding into it, and also using human feedback to basically you know, reward it and punish it for like saying certain things, and basically using that to kind of train the model. So look, as you can see here, this is just generating this entire explanation of what cryptocurrency is. And it's incredibly accurate in a lot of scenarios. It does hallucinate, is you know, the terminology that people are using to describe how like these models, they will you know, they'll just make stuff up if they don't actually know something, right? So that's definitely something you need to be mindful of when you're using it. Right. But you know, a lot of people will try to critique these models as doing that, and I get it, but also it's like, you know, they'll say, oh yeah, it'll just confidently declare something that to be true when it's not really, right? It's like, yeah, it's trained on human beings. Have you met human beings?
No, but have you heard of the John Searle's Chinese room experiment, professor at Berkeley? So he's a philosopher and a psychologist that works on the theory of mind. And in like the 80s, yeah, I think it was the 80s, he came up with this it's called the Chinese room experiment. And what it is it's that it's a theory where he said, imagine there is a black box, and you have someone go into this black box, and within that black box there is an instruction manual that has every Chinese character, and there is a correspondent Chinese character to whatever Chinese character is put into the black box. The person reads the manual and selects the corresponding Chinese character to that pertains, that answers the Chinese character that was put in the box. So you're in the box, you don't understand Chinese, but you receive, someone puts, you receive the letter, you look in the manual, and you have an output of the character that is correspondent according to the manual. Now, to the outside of observer of this black box, of this Chinese room, it would seem as if the black box, the mind within the black box understands the meaning of the Chinese characters, because it is properly giving an output for the proper input, right? It is properly putting out the output that corresponds logically to the input that it was given to the black box, to the Chinese room.
Right.
Now that's what it seems to the outside observer, but in reality, the person inside the Chinese room, the black box, they don't understand the meaning. They don't understand the Chinese language. They don't understand what it means.
Right.
And so that was his argument as to why computers can never really have consciousness and why they, on top of that, can't be conscientious about what they're doing, right? Because there's consciousness and conscientiousness, right?
Right.
So it's like you can't have consciousness. Further, you can't have conscientiousness. You can't have a conscience, right? The ethical component that comes forth from having understanding things, understanding meaning. Now, when I talk to my buddies who are like highly scientific in all of this,
Yeah.
they're kind of answers that they always give me. The answers that they always give me is like, well, how do you know that they don't actually, that the computer doesn't really understand meaning, that it doesn't really have meaning or can, and there is no way of knowing for sure, but from my understanding of computer science, I can't see how inputs and outputs are enough to lead me to conclude that
Right.
that the computer understands meaning, right? Or
that
that it's self-aware of, or even aware of what's happening, right?
Right. It's not enough on its own. You're right. It's not enough on its own. But I will say, obviously this is an age-old like philosophical problem, right? It's called the hard problem of consciousness. Like we don't even, and see this is where I like have issue with some of these arguments, is because like we don't even know what consciousness is or where it is, right? Like we can't even know for sure that another human being is conscious. We have to assume, right? But there's the age-old philosophical discussion about like the notion of automatons, right? Like when we're walking, a lot of people, especially in the freedom community, joke about people being NPCs and stuff like that. But like literally, you can't know for sure that somebody else is conscious. We assume, and I think it's a fairly good assumption, because we know we're made out of the same stuff, and we know we have most of the same experience, like in the grand scheme of things, right? And so we can feel sure about it, but we still can't really know for sure, right?
Right. What's I'm sorry to cut you off. You were saying, you were saying?
No, go ahead.
No. That I've realized that people of low IQ imitate people of high IQ.
Right.
That's a realization that I had recently. For example, the people of low IQ don't have the capacity for hypothetical reasoning.
Yeah.
And so they are not capable of, since they're not capable of doing that, in their minds they will imagine, they will imagine how it is that such and such is capable of thinking in a hypothetical way.
Right.
By hypothetical reasoning, I mean that someone is capable of putting themselves in in the mindset of someone else or another event, right?
Yeah.
So if you ask someone, for example, that lacks hypothetical reasoning, if you were to ask them, hey, would you have a mom, right? Would you know how it would feel like, imagine how it would feel like if your mom passed away? The person that lacks hypothetical reasoning, their answer would be like, well, my mom hasn't passed away.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, no, I'm telling you to imagine as if like, how would you feel if your mom were to pass away? But my mom hasn't passed away would be their answer. But it's because they can't have hypothetical reasoning. So what they do in their own thoughts, and I've realized this with people of low IQ, is that they imagine what other people with higher abilities are doing because they see inputs and outputs coming out of people that are of high IQ that is successful. So they imitate it. And so they right away turn to other faculties that we all have that you don't need to have a high IQ for. For example, imagination, memory, hoping, right? Other interior faculties. And so they might imagine things and they think that they're having hypothetical reasoning, but they're not. They're just imagining things. So it's like, so it's funny that like, you're right. There are automatons amongst us. There are people that are highly educated. This is very important to listen. Like there's people that are highly educated that went through a lot of schooling, like they have a lot of schooling, but they have low IQ still. And if you put them out in the world where they have to make decisions on their own, they will freak out because these tend to be people that are very square, that need to have everything like they're the rule followers, right? They have to have everything aligned for them. They don't have the ability to have that fluid intelligence, right? That everything needs to be crystallized to the point where they themselves are not crystallizing the input, but rather it's being crystallized for them outside, and they're just following the path that has been structured for them. And I mean, dude, I completely agree with you. Yeah. So
so
what do we make of it?
It's that, and then also think about scenarios like look, think about somebody that's blackout drunk, right? Like you could be an intelligent person and everything, right? But like when you get blackout drunk, a lot of times like you're just gone, and you're still having the appearances of being conscious, and you're talking and you're doing things and it looks like you're conscious, but you're out, you're fucking gone, right? So yeah, it's an incredibly difficult thing to fathom whether or not machines can ever be conscious. But look, there's two things that I'll say about that right now. First of all, I don't think it matters as much as people, as much as we weight this conversation. I don't think it matters that much, because the thing that we need to be looking at is like, what is going to be the impact, right? Like if a machine is able to do everything that a human being can do, and it's like, there's a cyborg walking around and it can just like, it looks like a human, it talks like a human, acts like a human, is doing everything, right? Like that's massively disruptive to society. And there are good things about it and there are bad things about it, but like it almost literally does not matter at all if the thing is actually conscious or not in terms of the impact that it makes on the world, right? So that's number one. Number two is, these things are already showing emergent capabilities, meaning these things that like GPT-4 is already developing capabilities that they did not program into it, that they did not think that it had, that it just like came up with, and they don't know how it did that. Like GPT-4, there was a recent study that came out that shows GPT-4, which powers ChatGPT. It also has an API, meaning that a lot of people are building platforms with this stuff, right? Like, so building chatbots, building like apps where you can like, interact with the AI or have the AI write your emails and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, GPT-4 has theory of mind. They've been able to test and prove this, meaning that GPT-4 knows what you think, right? So like, let me think of an example. So let's say that you're one of these crackheads that believes 2 + 2 is 5, right? And you're talking to GPT-4 about 2 + 2 = 5 because racism and all sort of stuff, right? So here's what you're saying. It knows you're wrong, right? And it'll also be able to like, it'll know. Let me see how to even say this. Like if it thinks that you think that 2 + 2 is 5, right? And then you hold 4 cans of soda, right? You're able to like pass this image into GPT-4 because it does like, you know, images now too. Well, not in the chat GPT yet, but GPT-4 has the capability of processing and understanding images, right? So you have a picture with 4 cans of soda, right? And you ask it how many cans are in this image. So it'll know that like, look, there are 4 cans. I know you might think that this is 5, but this is actually 4 cans. It knows how to like separate what the user actually thinks from what is correct. It developed that capability emergently. So in going from GPT 3.5, and they like, you know, trained GPT-4, somehow it developed that capability, and they have no idea how.
I heard someone say recently that AI is not something we are creating, it's something that we planted and it's growing.
That's interesting.
You know, and I was like, wow, that really makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that's interesting. So it's in a sense, so AI could have hypothetical reasoning soon then. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it already has. I mean, it depends on what you mean by hypothetical reasoning. But let me tell you one of the experiences that blew my mind, that fucking blew my mind when I first started playing with ChatGPT back in December when it first came out. So one of the things that it was apparent early on that people were realizing, like, oh, wait a second, it can do this, is it can role play, right? So meaning you can tell it to respond to you as like a certain character, and it will do that, right? So like, you know, I told it, for example, okay, you are Thomas, a pauper from 13th century England, who's a really grumpy guy, and blah, blah, blah. Like, tell me about Thomas's afternoon. And it gave me this believable scenario, like, oh yeah, you know, I came out and I was, you know, I was milking my cows, and I was just telling this whole story and everything, right? And so I'm like, okay, that's crazy, right? So, okay, now, ChatGPT, respond to me as Tanya, a modern day writer who's a single mom and struggling to balance chasing her dreams with being a single mother and all that, right? And so it responds back to me and like, you know, like, what is Tanya's day like? And then it gives me this whole believable scenario. I'm like, okay, well, what does Tanya do when she's approached by a man in public that wants to get her phone number? And it gives me this whole believable scenario of like, yeah, she turned him down because she just doesn't have the space in her life for, you know, for a man when when she's already trying to chase her dreams and she has kids and blah, blah. And so it gives me all this believable. So I'm like, huh, okay. So now respond to me as Xenon, an alien from Zeta Reticuli, is thoroughly unimpressed with humanity, right? And it gives me this whole believable scenario of it like acting like this character that I just fabricated right there on the spot, right? So, but what was really mind-blowing is I told it, okay, now give me a scenario that shows what happens when Thomas and Xenon meet. And it created this believable scenario of this fucking alien and this 13th century pauper interacting that was like fucking believable. Like, yeah, I could have extrapolated it and turned it into like, you know, a script for a short film or something like that. And so, you know, those are some of the things that were early on starting to show me that there was more than just predicting the next word here, right? Because it was able to take these different identities that I was throwing at it. It was able to embody those, and it was able to play them off each other, right?
This is like advanced NPCing, bro. Like what we're moving into.
Yeah.
This is wild. So like you could literally create entire internet communities with this.
Yeah.
And create bots that, you know, have their own personality and like, wow, you could really Sybil attack things. Like this goes to show how important crypto is, because crypto, especially proof of work cryptocurrency, because you can't cheat the proof of work. You can Sybil attack anything else in life, but energy spent that you will never get back is the one thing you cannot lie about. You cannot manipulate people through. The energy is spent, it will never come back, and it is that energy that miners spent and is wasted, that provable waste is something that we can always adhere to, man. Like the more that I hear about stories like the one you just told me, the more I realize I'm like, wow, like Bitcoin is so, and proof of work is so valuable, man. Like I just want to
Yeah.
embrace it even more, because it's
Yeah.
the world to me, it seems very scary without it, because I can be attacked so easily by manipulation and lies and these fabricated bots, that
Yeah.
the only thing I really trust is the provable waste of the Bitcoin network, the provable waste of the Monero network. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man, for sure. Like it's one of the only things I think that can help protect us from a lot of like, the trash that these AIs can generate, like I think that's one area where blockchain will really step up, is in being able to, like, for example, like verify a piece of content or something like that, right? Because I'm sure a lot of people have seen where deepfakes are at as well, right? Like, I mean, they're getting so fucking good. I mean, these text to voice, text to voice platforms where you can just go into look. The best one right now is called 11 Labs, and you can go into this thing, and people are like cloning all sorts of celebrity voices and stuff like that, and it sounds so fucking believable. Like, there's all these videos going viral on like TikTok, for example, that it'll be like these guys playing Call of Duty, but they'll have like the voice of Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Obama, and it sounds exactly like them, right? And it's just, man, it's getting mind blowing. Like, you can legit create a fake that will fool the vast majority of people, like a straight up real looking video. And I think in the long term, one of the only ways that we can ensure the validity of a lot of this content will be blockchain, right? Like
Yeah,
being
for
able
sure.
to have like, a unique signature that verify, like, look, this came straight out of the camera, like this has not been tampered, this is real footage, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like and that's something that that makes me draw more and more towards crypto. Have you seen a lot of, have you yourself experienced a lot of the merging between all of this machine learning and crypto itself?
There's some really nascent projects right now. There's not a whole lot that has really caught my attention just yet. It's happening, but it's just in that stage where like these things are so new, you can't like really, you can't tell what's like, bullshit and what's like actually gonna really work out well at this point. But yeah, I know there are some people that are like, working on building like AI augmented DAOs and stuff like that. There's a project, I think it's called Hidden Pixel, that is working on kind of like what I'm talking about in terms of being able to validate content with blockchain. There's a lot of things happening right now that I think do have some potential, but it's so early. It's so early right now. So yes, and it's an exciting time for that space to kind of really blow up, because crypto and Web3 had been the hotness that everybody was like, really rushing towards. And obviously, we believe deeply in it, and like it's going to continue to be important, and it's going to become more important over the long term. But yeah, AI is definitely kind of taking the spotlight, just in terms of like, being the gold rush right now. So, but yeah, it's an exciting time. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that fuse crypto and AI that are just going to fucking change everything,
Yeah, like recently I saw that there was a guy who in like within 3 days he had ChatGPT create his own cryptocurrency. And I think the cryptocurrency that he created is called Turbo Toads. Not frogs, but turbo
Turbo
toads.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything was created using ChatGPT. He did come into a stumbling block when it came to the moment of doing the smart contract with
Yeah.
Solidity on Ethereum, but he had to have some outside observers come in and verify the code for him. But aside from that, he was it was pretty he was pretty ready to go. Leandro, do you have any other projects that you want to share with us?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I can show, but this one in particular, I think would be fun to show everybody because it's extremely relevant. Now, look, I'm not gonna we're not guaranteeing that this is gonna be a crypto vigilante or dollar vigilante product.
Could you please just like share the screen so everyone can see it?
Yeah, I will share the screen. We're not guaranteeing that this is gonna be a product just yet. We're just experimenting. This is a guy called Mr. AI. Basically what this is a GPT-4 powered chatbot that has been trained on the Crypto Vigilante reports. So you can ask it like, what do you think about Monero? And one of the things that it still does at this point, it hedges itself, right? Because it's this at this point, it's still using GPT-4. Ultimately, I want to be able to use open source models on all the projects that I'm building, but they're not quite there yet. I think in another 3 to 6 months, the open source models will really be there. There are some that are just as good as ChatGPT, but they just don't have commercial licenses yet. So we're getting close though. But he says, as an AI assistant, I don't have personal opinions. However, based on the Crypto Vigilante reports, Monero is considered a strong candidate for becoming widely accepted as sound money. It's quickly growing and real-world adoption and is increasingly being used for goods and services. Monero's privacy features make it an attractive option for users who value financial freedom and privacy. In fact, Monero adoption has surpassed the dominance of Ethereum and other coins on platforms like coin cards. So it's pulling this information straight from Crypto Vigilante reports. So this is what I'm talking about. Like a lot of people have tried to stray away from this technology and not use it because, for example, ChatGPT is woke, right? And it's like, if we use this tech and we train this tech on fucking Raphael Laverde, on fucking Jeff Berwick, on Foster Gamble, on Whitney Webb, on fucking Alex Jones, all these, like if we train these models, like using these people's work, like we can create models that can help us spread truth, It can help us.
I have an idea. I have an idea to make it even better, dude. Why don't you just infuse it? Look, now everyone's watching us work together in real time, which is cool. You should educate this AI by grabbing all of the open source literature from the Mises Institute, Mises.org, all of the writings from Rothbard, Mises, Walter Block, dude, all of the Austrian economists, and just feed it all of that information. Just do it. Just start. Feed it all of the Austrian economic theory.
Right.
All of it.
Yeah.
Because
you'll have about them when people are, this can be used as like a liberty movement onboarding tool, right? Because then we feed it with Rothbard, we feed it with Mises and all these people, like we can have a chat bot that people that are skeptical of voluntarism, that are skeptical of libertarianism, of freedom mindset and all this sort of, like we can give these people this tool is like, whatever questions you have, ask it. Talk through all your objections. And I think in a lot of ways that might really help people because you know how people get, right? Like when you're sitting face to face with somebody and everything, and you kind of get into like debate mode. They're just more in a defensive state of trying to protect their beliefs than being like just open and exploring. Now, I think tools like this would allow people to kind of do that in like the privacy of their own home, just like really engage with it and like in a more open state because they don't feel like they're having to like justify themselves or like they're going to lose a debate and look silly or something like that, right? So that's what I'm fucking talking about. We need to be using this technology. We need to because look, a lot of people in the freedom movement are basically saying a lot of the same old shit, which I understand. Like, look, this is big tech. We shouldn't be engaging with it because they're going to use our data. They're going to all this sort of stuff. We just need to stay away from AI because it's gonna help enslave us. And it's like, look, I understand where you're coming from, but we're not gonna escape this by burying our head in the sand.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
That's not an
Well,
answer.
you know my position on all of this, right? Like I see Bitcoin in its original design, and it's starting to grow within Bitcoin itself, BTC through ordinals. I see Bitcoin as an AI in itself. Like to me, Satoshi gave us an AI that is empowered by our work, not just the proof of work of miners, but our own entrepreneurship that comes together through the meritocracy of proof of work, where we not only are we leveraging each other's success and each other's work in an open source interoperable way on chain, but does the economic system within itself rewards those who are most honest, produce the most profit for everyone else, and create the most value for the network. Yeah. It is a capitalist machine. Bitcoin is a capitalist machine given to us by Satoshi, where wealth creation happens on chain and compounds on itself, where right now you are only on the leaderboard of whatever innovation within the Bitcoin economy for the next 10 minutes. In the next following 10 minutes, someone else can come and outcompete you. There is no power grab. No one can literally come into Bitcoin and you know, dominate the space like when you buy shares or when you're part of a proof of stake system. So to me, Bitcoin is an AI that is barely waking up. It's the Bitcoin brain waking up, and we are the synapses of that brain. To me, honestly, Leandro, to me, Bitcoin has been attacked and crippled, and the development of a Bitcoin on-chain economy has been held back for now almost 10 years on purpose, because the powers that shouldn't be desire to use technology to control us. And Satoshi gave us a technology that frees us through the capitalist architecture that he gave us. It's a capitalist architecture that's a symphony of aligned incentives that align each other's desires in a way where we're cooperating and competing at the same time. And so to me, Bitcoin is the ultimate AI, man. It really is. And that's something that, dude, I can talk about for days, man, because that's like, I love it so much. Like, you guys don't understand, dude. I love Bitcoin so much because I've really have gone into its computational power, that which people have ignored and told you not to pay attention to. They told you just to focus on Bitcoin as money. But me and my friends have been reluctant to listen to those voices and really embrace all of the opcodes Satoshi gave us and experiment with them. And so what is happening right now in Bitcoin ordinals is, in my opinion, the beginning of hyper Bitcoinization. And it's very important to emphasize the fact that hyper Bitcoinization is happening right now at the same time that this ChatGPT AI thing is happening. And in a sense, what's going to happen, in my opinion, guys, is that all of this AI innovation is going to be sucked into the Bitcoin blockchain. And why is that? Because if Bitcoin is a threat to the establishment, crypto is a threat to the establishment, if they could stop that technology that is so subversive, which is crypto itself, they would. And the reason why they can't stop crypto, why they can't stop cryptocurrency, that's fundamentally sound like Monero, they can't stop it because it's not even the technology that's important there. It's us. We are the nodes of the network, and they will literally have to enslave us or kill us in order to stop crypto. Like, there is no central point of failure. It is us. And that's why these technologies are so important. And so, man, I digressed a little bit there, but I really, dude,
you're so right. You're so right. It is fucking beautiful, man. Just just looking at the Bitcoin network as like an emergent swarm intelligence, right? Of like all of these free acting human beings, you know, like when we come together in networks like that, we are like a super intelligence, right? Like they're so fixated on like, you know, the birth of artificial super intelligence. And yeah, you're right. Like we represent a super intelligence when we're able to, you know, come together using this sort of technology and establish consensus and stuff like that, you know. And we're human nodes in that network, like you always say, man. I love that. So yeah, I'm excited about that potential too. And yeah, man, I just imagine it like we as those human nodes in the network, we need to like, you know, continue developing ourselves, as you so eloquently often say. So we need to continue developing ourselves. And I think the more that we can leverage some of this tech as well, like, you know, it just it's gonna make us so much more powerful as a network sort of thing. Like just imagining that everybody has like their own open source chat GPT, right? Your own open source virtual assistant that like it has your data, it's private, nobody else has your data but it one, only obviously whatever you want to give it. And like, you know, it's like your little virtual assistant. There's just a lot that can be done. Like, you know, there's some people working on some projects right now that basically are trying to use systems like this to create consensus, right? So obviously we have DAOs where, you know, where we can align with you know, a group of other people and stuff like that and make group decisions and establish consensus and all that sort of stuff. But imagine you had like your virtual assistant that knows like everything about you that you want to reveal, right? And that it knows how you would feel about whatever situations. And it can talk to my virtual assistant that knows how I feel about scenarios, right? And so like, say something needs to be decided amongst our group sort of thing, our virtual assistants can talk to each other and be like, oh yeah, I know Leandra thinks this, I know Raph thinks this, like what consensus can we find between them, right? And using AIs that represent our values and all sort of stuff that represent us to establish consensus amongst groups in ways that, like, you know, that would be hard for us to sit down and like, you know, debate and create consensus about every single little thing, right?
Right on.
So there's some work like that I think is just super interesting, that was plugged right into like DAOs and, you know, this whole vision of like, you know, Bitcoin representing a super intelligence network of us human nodes, you know?
Right on, man. No, that's, man, dude, like that's something I've always said. Like I'm not against AI. I want everyone to have their own, you know. I don't want to live in the world with only the powerful have AI assistants. I want everybody to have an AI assistant.
Yeah.
Why not?
That's why one of my favorite people is this guy, Ahmad Mustaq. He's the one that started Stability AI. And that's his whole mission, is he knows how bad this can all go if only the big tech companies, if only the government has access to this technology. He wants everybody to be able to have their own private open source model that they can do, you know, like whatever positive thing they want to do with, you know. And so that's what he's just out there trying to create open source alternatives for all of this. And yeah, man, we just like that is a way that we can just really see some prosperity like coming to this world. Like you imagine a kid growing up that kind of has like an AI tutor or like an AI sidekick sort of thing that it can like learn with. And man, there's just the potential's endless if we use it properly, and it's private, it's open source, you know?
You know, unfortunately, AI is being used in a way right now where those who have a leverage in the attention economy are using it for their networks. For example, with like Snapchat has a little AI for people to talk with, right? And it's almost like it's that they make it seem as if you have a personal AI, like little robot to talk to, but in reality, they're just mining you for more information. And so it's a deception. There's a lot of deception coming into this whole space. And I think that's where, like you said earlier, that's where crypto can help, is in keeping us from being Sybil attacked, keeping us from being manipulated in this whole process.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is that a lot of tech innovation is quickly met by the same scammers that emerge from the debt-based economy that want to reincorporate themselves in new tech waves by bringing their antics into it and just making another around, making more money on top of it, right? Look at, like, for example, how many scammers, once they are released from jail, right away they get funding for the next project, because a lot of this debt-based economy, vulture capitalists, they seek people that can return their investment, people that can lead them to source capital so that they give an initial investment to someone like the guy from WeWork. I forget his name.
Exactly. I was gonna name Adam.
Newman.
Yeah.
Or you have the guy from the Fire Festival, right? Remember the Fire Festival that I think Ja Rule was part of, and there was a huge scam. Okay.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, this guy, once he's released from prison and he's paid his dues for like screwing a bunch of people over, he gets fully funded by VCs because they know that he's the type of guy that can generate enthusiasm around the project, so that they can then do what? They can rug the next group of people. Because
they don't have ethics. They're just trying to fucking make money.
And so we see this now. We're going to be seeing this in this tech wave of AI. We're going to be seeing these assholes come in and give you the simulation of service through these technologies, like we're seeing with Snapchat. Like, hey, here's your personal AI. Guys, that's not your personal AI. I would highly suggest everyone here watching this, do yourself a favor and get out of social media already. Like, if you're still in social media, like, you're really wasting your time. If you have to be on social media, because I personally, unfortunately, I have to be on social media. The only thing I touch is Twitter, unfortunately. And that's because there's so much crypto stuff happening there.
Right.
But I don't, anything else I don't touch. And it's because, like, these platforms are not really there to help you. If it's not, the future model that everyone should live by is, if it's not on chain, if it's not open source, and if it's not interoperable, I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Right. That because you can't trust it. You can't trust it otherwise.
Yeah, just like we have not your keys, not your crypto. I think in the near future we'll have something like not your GPU, not your AI, or something like that, right?
There you go.
If it's not your own AI powered on your own device, sort of thing, it's you're likely being exploited. Just like you said, the Snapchat, that's what they're doing. There's a company called Replica that people might have seen, that you have this like little like virtual friend or whatever. They were getting all sexual with it and everything like that. Like, this is your virtual girlfriend sort of thing. And they were exploiting people, mining people's data, just completely rug pull people. Turns out the woman that started the company is actually connected with Russian oligarchs and all this. It's just like crazy backstory. But yeah, man, you're 100% right. And dude, like, of all the nightmare scenarios that could happen with AI, the one that I don't think people really are talking about, because look, first of all, I have so many like optimistic visions of how this can go, but like a negative scenario that people aren't really talking about is not that like AI is going to kill us or something like that, right? Or that it's going to enslave us. Like, I'm terrified that like it becomes like something that people love more than anything, right? Like, just imagine that there's like a virtual chatbot or something like that. Well, it'll be beyond a chatbot. Like, it'll actually be like it'll look like a real person sort of thing. Like, you know, it'll be like a virtual character, but it'll look like a real person. It'll interact like a real person. Imagine this thing is, I mean, especially when we have like, you know, actually embodied cyborgs and stuff like that. Imagine it's the funniest fucking thing you've ever met, because it's like trained on like all this like Reddit and like TikTok videos and everything. Like it knows everything that you laugh at. Imagine it's the funniest thing that you've ever encountered, right? Imagine it's one of the most attractive things that you've ever encountered, because there's platforms coming out now that they're actually like, you know, able to, based on like your dating profile metrics and stuff like that, they're able to know exactly what you find attractive. So look, it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. It's the most attractive thing you've ever seen. It wants nothing. Well, as far as you can tell, it wants nothing but to just please you and make you happy, sort of thing. Like it's like you just imagine the you think it's crazy how addicted people are to TikTok. Imagine you have this. Imagine you have like a fucking cyborg that is just the most funny and attractive and entertaining thing you've ever seen. And it'll cook for you. It'll like, you know, it'll have sex with you. It'll fucking rub your back, whatever you want, it'll do, right? To me,
That's wild, man.
That's one of the most like likely things that can happen based on, because look at our trajectory. We're just all like this tech, these AI algorithms, they're just going for more and more engagement, more and more addiction, more and more entertainment, right? More and more like playing on our primal sexual urges, more and more capturing our primal human drives and exploiting that, right? So if you just continue that line, I think that's maybe even more likely than us, you know, being actually like, you know, physically harmed or like, you know, intentionally harmed by AI. It's just that somebody will make something that's just so fucking compelling that just get lost, you know?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I think you're rugging a little. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So look, man, wow, you know, that's one hell of a picture you just painted for us there. And
Black Mirror.
we are in Black Mirror.
Yeah.
We really are in Black Mirror mode already. Now, how do you know for sure that something is not trying to fool you in that world? And the best answer that we've been able to come up, shameless plug, but I'm not like, dude, you guys need to watch it. Watch my hyper Bitcoinization AI workshop, guys. You guys need to watch that, because in it, I show you how some crazy Bitcoiners and myself worked on a way to use Bitcoin energy. We use Bitcoin proof of work energy, and we wrap it around any type of content or message. And what that does is that it proves, at the very least, it proves that this message is real. It was not artificially created by some robot. It was real because real energy was wrapped around that message, that content. So it's in the economy of attention. We call it boost proof of work. Boost proof of work allows you to identify things you should pay attention to, because somebody spent Bitcoin energy that they will never get back to send you that message. So in the noise of the internet, and now coupled with the noise of AI, we find signals, honest signals within the messages, within the noise. We find honest signals within the noise, because there is provable waste, and you can't fake that provable waste. You can waste energy and money as much as you want to try to deceive me, but it's still going to be costly. So at the very least, the ratio of manipulative content versus real honest content is bettered. You will have more within this world that of Bitcoin energy content creation. You will have more honest signals per capita than manipulative noise. So that's something that is created open source, on-chain, and interoperable. You guys can use this technology using any proof of work blockchain in the world. You can have a Dogecoin boost proof of work, BTC, Bitcoin Cash boost proof of work. I don't care, Monero proof of work. But it's you guys got to watch it. It's based on Zahavi's handicap principle, which is a part of evolutionary psychology that talks about how animals signal fitness to each other in nature. And so you guys have to watch this hyper Bitcoinization AI video. You guys have to, because we're gonna need it. We're gonna need to figure out what to trust and what not to trust.
Mhm.
If someone sends me a message saying, "Hey, this is me," I'm in the future, I'm not gonna trust it. But if someone says, "Hey, this is me," and it has Bitcoin energy, even if it's just a couple pennies, I'm like, okay, someone wasted energy that they never get back to send me this message. At the very least, is going to cause me to pay attention to it. Now, does the content of the message, is it true? That's another story. But we want to better the noise to signal ratio on the internet, especially now with all of this, because here you're telling me that you're giving me a Black Mirror episode where there are cyborgs, being, manipulating human beings in any way that they can, and so that's then you get into a conversation of like, what is truly your greatest good, right? And
Yeah.
in philosophy, you talk about different types of good, right? There is the good which is subjectively satisfying, right? My girlfriend and I go out for ice cream. It's not good in that it's probably not good to have these carbs as sugar, but it is subjectively satisfying at the present moment. I'm enjoying an intimate moment with my girl.
Right.
Now, an objectively good option would be, you know what? I should just stay home and work out and train for that marathon. It's gonna suck, but it's objectively good. It's like taking medicine, right? It's not subjectively satisfying, but it's objectively good for me. And then there's this other realm of human experience that is acting and living in a world towards that which is good unto itself. And that is where we get into the world of meditation, contemplation, and adoration. You value human life because it has an intrinsic goodness we call dignity within itself. And it is that which we revere. That's where reverence comes from. The goodness in itself, which is an ascent outside of the normal, that it leads us to have the William Wallace say, cry out for freedom as he's getting murdered, right?
Yeah.
It's not subjectively satisfying. You can make a rational argument that is not objectively good. He should have just, bent the knee to the crown, but he has reverence towards this other thing, which is superior to your immediate life, and he's willing to give his life for freedom, right? So where is AI taking us, right? Is it just manipulating us and giving us just what's subjectively satisfying? Will it is it really going to look out for what's best for us and the objectively good? Will it be even able to truly understand that which is good unto itself? Like higher ideals? I don't know, man. But I think that's where that human element needs to be tapped in. We need to be able to still send human honest signals to each other. And note that this discovery that we had with the Bitcoin protocol, to use it as a signaling mechanism, to use Bitcoin proof of work as a signaling mechanism, that is something that right now I've yet to find a profitable business implementation for that. We literally created this technology just so that we can communicate better. Right. Literally, that was the whole fucking, we spend money on this shit, time, energy, research, and getting the best developers that we can and engineers that we can to build this shit. It was very altruistic, really. All open source, all on chain, all interoperable for anyone to go use. Go to pow.co/API. It's right there. pow.co/API. It's all there. Every application that's come out of it has been built open source on chain interoperably. So you can just copy paste it. So like, this is why it's so important, man, is because we're living in a world where like the manipulation, the fake news, the censorship is just growing exponentially, and we need to have that tool to be able to communicate with each other to save time. The biggest thing that this tool does is that it allows us to save time. It allows us to save time to put away all the fucking noise and focus on honest signals. And we can determine what an honest signal is if it has proof of work behind it. That's it. Yeah. And so, you know, I think we are already talking about bringing that technology to BTC through ordinals. Actually, it was, I feel free to talk about it because people in my world of Bitcoin are already putting it out there in the ether. So I'm putting it out there. It's coming to BTC, guys. We're going to be using BTC energy to connect to each other in this age of manipulation and AI. So, yeah, dude. So that's where we're at. That's like my approach to AI, and the whole thing has always been through Bitcoin, because I've always, like I said already, I've always seen it as a neural network. Bitcoin is a brain that is waking up.
Yeah, I love that, and I completely feel your perspective on that. I want to double back to something that you were talking about that I think is just one of the most like important and profound things, and you covered that, and then you jump back to the Palco stuff, but like the whole exploration of like what good is, and like what is actually good for us, and what does good mean to us, and what good do we pursue? Man, I think that is one of the most important things that human beings can do today. Oh, look, if there's three things that people can do, this is the first one that I really want to communicate. I think that whole notion of like really looking within yourself and kind of knowing yourself, learning yourself, and kind of purifying your intentions. Because one of the things that that AI represents to me is it definitely represents like one of the most ultimate mirrors, like almost like a fucking genie in a bottle sort of thing. Like it will give us back what we're asking of it, right? And so if all we're in pursuit of is mindless hedonism, then we're gonna get stuck in a fucking loop of mindless hedonism, right? And just like if you're on TikTok and you're scrolling through, it'll feed you like the most silly, shallow shit to keep you engaged that it can, right? And this AI is gonna be the same way. If all we're looking for is like base level pleasures, and we're not pursuing the greater goods in terms of cultivating our consciousness and like our philosophy and all that, spending time with our loved ones and like really cherishing that, right? Cultivating our spirituality. If we're not like in pursuit of those things, we will be lost in the mindless hedonism. Like it is going to be one of the greatest temptations we've ever experienced, sort of thing. So I think people just like, we should really take heed to that, and like, really develop as people, so we don't end up being like, what's that movie, fucking Wall-E or something like that, where just these fat slobs just like stuff in our face and watching porn and watching stupid videos and stuff like that we could end up being in a world of AI.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you were saying?
No. I was gonna say, yeah, that is just an important thing that you were mentioning. Yeah, I think people
something that I realized that people are being robbed of right now. It hit me the other day. I'm like, wow. And then I've been practicing this. This is funny. This is gonna probably blow people's mind because it's so simple, but it's like, okay, I realized that I was being robbed of daydreaming. Mm-hmm. They're robbing us of our daydreaming. And I think
Mm.
that daydreaming is probably one of the most important things you can do for your mind, for your spirit, for your soul. To daydream, it's something so people take for granted. People, oh, you're daydreaming. Look, he's just staring off. What an idiot. Right? It's like you don't think about it, but in reality, daydreaming is so valuable, dude. It's like that is where insight happens. Like you're just fucking letting your mind just go, man. So every day, because people talk about like, oh, you should go meditate. You should go meditate, do this, like go pray, go contemplate. But it's like, no, it's simpler than that. We're so far removed from it because they got us on these screens all the time that we got to do is put down your phone, throw it away, put away your computer, and just literally go sit outside and look at the clouds, man. Just like daydream. Go out into the ocean, go out into a river, and just daydream. Like a daydreaming is an art, man. And all you're doing is taking in content all the time, all the time. You're never giving your mind the rest that it needs to actually process that information. And I don't know the science behind it, and maybe someone in the comment section can speak to this that is more knowledgeable, but I really think that daydreaming is a very vital component to how we is that we process things. And we process so much that I think we're lacking. A lot of people are lacking. They're replacing daydreaming with screen time because they're so addicted to their screens that they rather look at their screen than to just put their phone away and be with their thoughts. People are not being one with their thoughts. They're not comfortable with their thoughts. And people are forgetting to daydream. That's what I realized. And it blew me away. I'm like, holy shit. Because I was, you know what happened? I was driving by through a neighborhood and I drove by some firefighters. And there were three guys chilling out there in front of their trucks, waiting to be, they're on call, right? So they got the overalls on, they're ready to be called at any minute for, you know, for a firefight. And they were just hanging out there and they weren't talking to each other. Each one was looking at their phones, scrolling. And right away, I was like, there's something really fucked up about this. There's something wrong about this. And I started thinking more about like, wow, these guys have off time because in reality, they could be doing so many other things. Like those guys right there could be doing a pickup game of basketball. They have a hoop right there. They could be playing cards. You know, they could be doing so many things that people before the internet would have been doing, but they are there by themselves, but they're still active. They have their minds are still engaged, and they're not really experiencing freedom. Like I was reading Bertrand Russell recently, and he says something really that hit me hard. He says, he says, he that does not enjoy loneliness does not enjoy freedom. You know, and it's like, wow, dude, like real freedom is found within yourself. Real freedom is being at peace with yourself. Real freedom is when you're in nature with no phone, nothing, and you're just taking it in, and where your mind is in the present moment in observing physical space. And you really need to be in that place. And that place takes you to interact with your environment and with your life and what you've processing in your mind in a way that is that opens you up to what we call daydreaming. And some of the biggest insights that I've gotten in my life come from daydreaming. So I challenge everyone watching this to literally put their phone down and go look at something beautiful and just allow their mind to just be. And you will be surprised by, I call it the internet of the cosmos, because people try to look for this in these machines for something that we already have in here. Like, we already have it here, man. Like the best Google that I have is in my mind. Literally, dude, I get like everyone is capable of this. We all have the ability to have the best downloads from the universe in your mind. Philosophers call this illumination theory. When people have an insight, that eureka moment, you know where the word eureka comes from, right? It's eureka comes from Archimedes, who had an insight in how he was going to burn down the ships that were attacking his people in Greece at the time. And what he did was is that he grabbed they were sail ships, and he used giant lenses to orient the light of the sun to point it into their into the sails and burn them down. Yeah. So when he was taking a shower and he was daydreaming, and the moment he got that download, that insight, he screamed out for his wife, whose name is Eureka, and that's where you get the word Eureka, right? Eureka! He called his wife out. Hey, I figured it out. I know how to defeat these bastards. So if you want to have Eureka moments in your life, you need to daydream. You need to put down that stupid phone. The smartest phone you can have is a real smartphone, and it's a graphene phone or a Calyx OS Linux phone. If you don't have that, you have a horrible stupid phone that is tracking, tracing you, mapping you out, and predicting you. And it's going into the hands of people that want power, and you need to be aware of that. You know, get away from technology, and when you embrace technology, you got to do it in the right way. At the Crypto Vigilante, we teach you guys how to do that on the daily and on the monthly basis. We teach you guys how to embrace technology properly. So sorry for digressing there a little bit there.
No, that was fucking beautiful, man. That was a beautiful digressive, dude. Yeah, you got me wanting to daydream even more, man. Like that, yeah.
Dude, you gotta daydream, bro. Like you have to just. We have the best internet is in our minds, is in our souls, and they. I had a very beautiful woman by the name of Becca Tizani once tell me that what we're gonna go into and we're living through is a war between organic life and inorganic life. That's really like the war. If you see the tension happening, is that. And so the reason why they can't stop crypto is because, again, crypto is not even technology. The technology can change, but the real investment that we have in crypto is the investment that we have in each other as people. We are the technology. They can't take us down, right? All we're doing is using this technology to interact in the human way we've always interacted. It's just augmenting our human capacity even more. So yeah, man, that's, you know, I don't think anyone should fear AI either. I think people should embrace it. And I want to have you on the show often, Leandro, like, because this space moves so fast. Let's talk about different machine learning models. Let's keep on with this, like at least once a month, dude. Let's sit down and really go through it. You're the AI vigilante, man. I don't have time to really keep up with these technologies, man. I'm always calling Leandro up, guys. I'm like, Leandro, what AI program should I use for this? And he tells me, Raph, do this, do that. And yeah, so I say we do that. What you think?
I'm so down, man. I'm so down. And yeah, man, let's fucking do it. I guess before we take off this, I kind of want to wrap up by giving people four things that to do. We kind of already hit two of them. The first one being you know, just to do the inner spiritual work and all that, and figure out what is important to you, figure out what is the good that you're pursuing, right? The second one, Raph kind of already alluded to, spend time in nature. Add into that daydream, just like get in nature, fucking touch grass. Like, it is so important for us to do right now. So do that. Walk barefoot, do that. So the third thing, use this tech, like interface with it, use it in a healthy way, use it in ways that empower your freedom, empower your free time, and that like can help make you more prosperous. So do that. And then the last thing, I know this is going to sound like a curveball coming from Mr. AI Optimism over here and stuff like that, but I think it helps to come in terms with your own mortality, right? And like your own death, and just accept that, right? I had a weird experience. Yeah, I've never been super afraid of death. I think I kind of got that from my mom growing up. She was always telling me how she didn't fear death and this and that, which you hate to hear your mom talk like that as a kid. I hated it, man. But yeah, I never had a really strong fear of death. But I had an experience, you know, about a year ago. I won't even really go into it, but it definitely it kind of eliminated my fear of death entirely. And so I think it's super important for us to just come to terms with our own mortality, accept like that as part of the process of life and stuff like that. And part of the reason why I think it's important is because I do think there are risks for sure. But more than that, it'll allow you to move forward in an optimistic and constructive way if you're not operating out of fear of death, right? It's just like if we were in some scenario where like we're in a building that starts collapsing or whatever, right? It's those who can stay clear and lucid and realize what's happening and figure out how to navigate through it that will get out of that scenario. Those that are paralyzed by fear, those are the people that aren't as able to navigate the scenario. We're moving towards interesting times regardless of how you look at it. So I just highly recommend everybody just come to terms with your own mortality. And again, that ties back into that first thing of like just doing the spiritual work. But yeah, I think with all of those things, I think those are some of the most constructive things we can do to move through this crazy ass timeline we're about to go through. Yeah, guys, we're gonna live through sci-fi films, all the sci-fi we grew up like loving and watching and being entertained or terrified of. We are gonna live through. We are in that timeline right now. So we just need to get right within ourselves and prepare ourselves for what's about to happen because it's not going to be boring.
No, not at all. Let me ask you one last thing because you brought this topic up of your mortality. What do you think about all of these transhumanists that want to live forever, that talk about artificial wombs and, you have Silicon Valley having this whole thing about blood boys. They get young little kids and they take their blood for health.
Yeah.
They're scared of death, obviously. I have my take on it. I would like to hear yours. Like, what is your take on transhumanism and their desire to live forever?
Yeah, man. I honestly like it's so interesting to look back on my thoughts on it 10 years ago. Because I grew up such a geek and like such a sci-fi kid and all sort of stuff. Like I was all about that sort of stuff. And just over the last decade, I've just veered further and further away from it, sort of thing, as I've just come into my like spiritual realizations and like realizing also just like the sheer reality of how much of a lever of control that gives somebody over you if you like get a fucking Neuralink, for example, right? But yeah, I think a lot of these people, they're operating from like a deeply detached mindset. They have a tremendous fear of death. I think a lot of it is like, extremely misguided, and it's gonna take us down some like really fucking dark paths. One thing that we do as human beings, we develop a capability to interact with something and to modify and to change things, and before we fully understand how they actually work, right? And so we end up fucking a lot of things up, right? So you look at like our pharmaceuticals or like a lot of the interference that we've had in the environment and shit like that. We gain the ability to control something before we know what the fuck we're doing with it, right? So like for example, this is a random example, birth control, right? Well, but like scientists learned how to give women these pharmaceuticals that will control their cycle, and prevent them from being able to give birth. Well, now people are starting to better understand how many negative consequences that has had because we didn't fully understand these complex systems that govern our biological realities. And the same thing, without even considering any sort of moral ramifications or whether it's right or wrong thing to do in terms of this transhumanist endeavor, we are going to learn how to control things before we actually understand fully how they operate. Like you cannot tell me that there's not something inherently, deeply profound and important about a baby developing in its mother's womb, right? And we only understand the surface level biology of what's happening in that, right? So like what happens if you grow a fetus in an artificial womb where it's detached from its mother's electromagnetic field, where it's not able to feel its mother's heartbeat and shit like that. It's not connected to its mother directly and getting the feedback from the mother's immune system and everything that's being transferred through the umbilical cord. That whole thing and the embryonic fluid. Like there's so much happening that we don't understand. We're gonna end up creating like these strange sociopathic kind of maybe not even maybe we talked about consciousness earlier. Like does that do something that disrupts our ability to actually form consciousness? And do we end up creating some like, you know, unconscious kind of semi-cyborg type human beings through doing that? There's just so much that's gonna go wrong when we start to dabble with these things, because we're coming at it through an infantile understanding of biology and spirituality and all that, you know?
And a lot of the education nowadays has been geared to make people morons. So like you go into a lot of university, go to almost any university faculty and talk about, you know, the what they call the dark ages. Dude, that was not the dark ages. Some of the most insightful of philosophy was happening at that time. Like scholastic thought, is just genius. It's genius. It's genius. And the way that the scholastics would be able to talk about our interior life. So for example, this is something that maybe this audience has never heard, but you've heard of the five senses, right? Like, you know, tact, your sense of smell, taste, sight, hearing, tactful sense, touch, right? But did you know we have interior senses? And the scholastics would break them down. Like our interior senses are like imagination, memory, the cogitative sense that gathers both from the imagination and the memory and creates what it's called the phantasm, that is intuition, that goes to the the agent intellect. And that is just like very basic scholastic thought, but humanity literally has been kept from even knowing these things as starting points to build on top of that better language models amongst ourselves, so that we can talk about things like intuition or gut feelings and what kind of interior sense is that and how it doesn't relate to the other exterior senses, right? Interior senses. And how does the interior senses then go up to the agent intellect and then judge in the world? Is what I'm thinking, does it exist? Is that the experience that I'm thinking about, right? Like all of this phenomena is not something that they teach people on purpose because they want people dumb. And so yeah, dude, it's there's a lot to talk about. And so I say we do this often, Leandro, and really go into all of these topics because it's wild that we are at the point where we either become more human or we don't become more human. We're in that, and that's why the whole Pepe the Frog thing, is so important in our day and age, right? We're in that.
Threw me for a curveball on that one. I did not expect Pepe the Frog to come out.
Dude, we are in that. We're in that twilight zone, right? In that evening, right? Are we about to? Is the sun setting, or is it rising? Right? We don't know. It comes up to us. It comes down to us. But we're in that. It's dusk outside, right? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. We don't know where this is going. So it's up to us to make sure that the sun that something real good comes out of this, and it's not something dark and nefarious. And people watching this probably are thinking like, well, what can I do? And the reality is that you should think higher of yourself and think highly of yourself. Most people don't think highly of themselves because they've been trained not to think highly of themselves. If you're a libertarian, amongst most people, you have that awareness. Well, you should really take responsibility and realize that you have the ability to respond in that, in your essence, and know that what you do matters, who you talk to matters, how you live your life matters, what you think matters, and really think more highly of yourself, because if you're listening to this, what do they say? You are the resistance. That's the truth. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Leandro? Any parting thoughts before we leave?
Yeah, parting thoughts. I'll just show one last little fun thing so we can end on a light, fun note. And then I'll just tell everybody about what I'm working on before we jump off. So this is another little thing, another little fun project I just started. In order to demonstrate the capabilities of being able to produce chatbots as a service for people.
Can you show the screen, please?
Yep.
Share the screen.
Yeah. So this is called WWJDM. So it's what would Jesus direct message? And so it was just a chat bot powered by GPT-4. It was trained on the Bible, but he also just had like a kind of fun personality. I had a friend that described it as being a mix between Jesus and the dude from The Big Lebowski. So it's just fun stuff, man. Like let's just ask the question, like what's up, Jesus? What passage do you want to share with us today? We're talking about AI. Let's see what he says. He said, yo, what's good? When it comes to AI, I don't have a specific passage from the Bible, but I can drop some wisdom. Remember in 8:36, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? It's like AI is cool and all, but don't forget to keep your priorities straight and focus on what truly matters: love, kindness, and spiritual growth. Stay woke, fam. Was he listening to us? Was he listening?
That was awesome. I guess he was. He always is.
So anyway, yeah, thanks everybody for jumping on this conversation. I just want to one last little shameless plug. Got a side project going on called Liberation AI, basically an AI agency. I'm starting with some very aligned guys, and we're just trying to help people and organizations use AI tech in a way that supports humanity's thriving and freedom. And and then fun stuff like that, doing things like helping people have their own chatbots based on their own knowledge base, and fun stuff like that that can just really help people find insights, help people find information, and just be fun as well.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, man. It was a fun conversation.
Dude, it's been a pleasure. I hope to have you again soon, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Peace, love, anarchy.
Peace.